everybody, welcome in. Today we're going to be talking about plantar fasciitis. What is it? What does it come from? And what are some of the best techniques that you can do sitting in your chair at home? You don't have to go anywhere with a simple lacrosse ball, your fingers here, and a little bit of stretching as well. I want to teach you my 3 different methods to be able to relieve any of that pain and pressure that's going on in your ankle or your heel or attached to the bottom of your foot. So let's first start talking about what is plantar fasciitis. So if we break down the word, the plantar, that first part is talking about 1 or 2 different ways that the ankle moves. So every time that you pull your ankle up and you point the toes to the ceiling, we call that dorsiflexion. Then anytime that you point your ankle down, we call that plantar flexion. Now to do the dorsiflexion, you have to use the muscles on the front of your leg, of your lower leg. And to do that plantar flexion, you actually have to use the muscles in the back of your calves. So if you can feel back there, you got 2 muscles back there. A lot of times we think, oh, my calves might be tight. We're not thinking that there's 2 major muscles back there and each of them do something different. So let's first think about what does the plantar flexion. That's going to be your calves as well as the muscles underneath of the foot, because they're going to help also curl those toes. And a lot of times when you do plantar flexion, whether you're walking or going up a step, you are trying to grip the ground a little bit with your toes, therefore making those muscles activate. So what we want to do is take our time working through those muscles. So we're going to use, again, either a lacrosse ball or a therapy ball to add some additional pressure. I'm also going to show you how to use your fingers to be able to move all the different muscles of that Achilles tendon area, and then we want to start stretching it. Okay, so we need to first work the muscle, we then need to release the muscle, and then stretch the muscle. So let's break it down. Find yourself a chair, get some water nearby. We're just going to spend a couple minutes here, but a nice comfortable chair so that you can lean back, but also pull your leg up onto one side. So you found yourself in your chair. Make sure that we have a nice stable chair. We're going to bring this one leg up. Let's only do 1 foot at a time, and you're just going to cross that foot. Now, let's think about what's going on here so we help ourselves understand. Again, those muscles that do the plantar flexion and pull that foot down, those are going to be the muscles of the calves. And then whenever you pull that foot up, that's going to be the muscles here of the front of that lower leg. So all you need to be able to do is be able to bring this leg up nice and high. What I'm going to do, you can keep your sock on, it doesn't matter. I'm going to take mine off just so that you can see everything. To think about where everything is. Now, the muscles here of the front of the foot, they're going to also pull those toes up. And the muscles on the bottom of the foot, they're going to pull those toes down. So likely if the tension is right there in the heel, we need to address the middle of the foot because that's one side of the heel. And then we need to address the muscles above the heel as well to make sure that there's no tension meeting in the middle. Very first thing that we're going to do, you're just going to start by taking your thumb and pressing down through the middle of the foot. And you're going to press your way all the way down. Now when doing this, your goal here is to stretch those muscles back and forth. So I'm just going to use both thumbs here to work up and down the foot. Now when you get into the middle here, you're going to start to feel some tighter muscle. What I want you to do is to pin that muscle and then flex your foot. Flex those toes up and down. Every time you feel your toes go back, you're going to feel that muscle right in the middle there get really tight. And so we want to work that muscle as you're flexing that foot up and down. Now, my goal is not to create a bunch of tension going through my hand here either. So make sure that you're pushing with your body and not just with your thumb there. So up and down with those toes. Next, I want you to bring the hand directly, the palm of your hand directly onto the heel. And from here, we're going to work that heel, rotate in one direction, and then rotate in the opposite direction. Think about you're trying to move the skin and the fascia that's in there around that bone. When we talked about breaking down the word plantar fasciitis, plantar is this movement. Fascia refers to that thickness that's right underneath the skin. You've got skin, then fascia, then your muscle and bone. So we're working that fascia. And unfortunately, that itis part refers to inflammation. So it's telling us that the fascia of the muscles that do plantar flexion are inflamed. Next, we're going to go to the other side of the heel here. The heel we can refer to as the calcaneus. There's a bone in there. So we already talked about these muscles. Now what comes over here? Now we have muscles in here in the calves, right? So when you stretch your calves, normally most people are stretching the gastrocnemius, which is the most superficial or basically the highest one. Then there's another muscle beneath that. It's called the soleus. Many times the soleus is the one that causes the problem because the gastrocnemius passes two joints. The gastrocnemius attaches on the other side of the knee, so up here in the femur, and it passes and it crosses this heel, the calcaneus, and it actually attaches a little bit lower. So that's telling us that something else attaches directly to the heel. That's going to be that soleus. In a little bit, I'm going to show you the differences in stretching those, but here, since we're still working what's considered manual therapy, let's make our way through that. So I want to think about this Achilles tendon right here. Where does that tendon attach directly to the heel? Wherever you feel that, you want to kind of work those fingers in there. Now I like to use the flat end of my pointer finger and then my thumb. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch that area there, and in a way, it's kind of pulling up towards my knee slightly. And then I'm going to dorsiflex my foot. Remember, we talked about two different things. The plantar flexion is where the problem is. So we're gonna pin while we're in that area and then dorsiflex the foot to stretch that whole thing. I'm liking to think that I'm pulling this away from the heel because it's just, there's so much inflammation down there that we just gotta pull it away. So again, dig into there and then flex, dorsiflex that foot, release. And what we're going to do is do that same thing and slowly work your way up into, now the thing is the calves, all that muscle starts up in this area. You don't have to work all this. This is a little bit tough to deal with your hands. That's where you might want to use a full palm, which I'll show you. But since we're just down here, let's think about pulling and creating space where all these tendons here attach to the calcaneus or your heel. So think again, pin and stretch. You could, of course, use a ball in this area, holding it underneath, but then you're gonna have to do both sides. So make sure that it's much easier just to go ahead and use the hands. So let's bring it to the front of the foot. Remember, these muscles here pull those toes up, and then the muscles here in the shin, they flex that foot up. So plantar flexion is where we're doing so much inflammation because we're walking so much. Dorsiflexion is the opposite. But when you're doing a ton of walking, this muscle just gets really tight. So what I want you to do is pull by that ankle, pull that foot up, and then slide down. And as you point the toes down, slide those fingers up the outside of the calf there. It's not the bone side. It's going to be more this side where that tibialis anterior is. If you want to know where that is, just hold on and flex that foot up and down, and you'll feel that muscle moving. So again, pin right by the ankle and then stretch down. Put a bunch of pressure as you're pulling up. Same thing happens with the toes. Point those toes up, pin the skin that's just beneath those ankles, and then as you curl those toes, slide those fingers back. Really good for helping open up the muscles of the top of the foot. Yes, we're talking about the bottom, but we want to address the ones on the top as well. Next, I'm going to grab each side of the foot. Really like doing this one. And I'm just going to go back and forth and separate. Think about the long bones that meet to each toe. You're basically grabbing each one and separating them just a little bit. Open them up. Chances are this area is really tight. Perfect. Now we're a little bit higher up on the chair. I want to think about this area here. I'm going to use the heels of both of my hands and push back and just put a bunch of pressure, pushing the two together. And while you're doing that, you're going to lift that foot up and down. And make your way up into that calf area. Give it some good stretch, good pin as well. And just work your way. You can make your way up and down and just take your time with it. Hello. The mascot had to make an appearance. But yeah, anybody who's out there walking their dogs, hitting hikes through Spain, all sorts of stuff. I got a lot of people doing a lot right now. You may experience some of this plantar fasciitis, or your calves just might be tight in general. So let's take a little bit of time and stretch them out. So next I'd like you to hop up and find yourself some space on the wall where we can stretch. We're going to do a very commonly known stretch to stretch the gastrocnemius, and then I'm going to show you how to stretch the soleus, which is very likely the muscle that's causing your pain. So very commonly known is to lean up against a wall and to stretch this leg here in the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to work that leg and stretch it. So you notice this leg back here, I'm going to lift up high onto my toes and then come down and push that heel back. You're going to feel a stretch going right through the calves. Again, lift back up onto the toes and then come back down. Now this is that gastrocnemius. So this is that superficial muscle. In other words, meaning the muscle that's on top of the soleus, which is likely our problem muscle. So it's good for us to stretch the superficial muscle first, just because we know it's going to be tight too. But we also don't want it to get in the way when we're trying to stretch the soleus. So just up and down a couple times. You can do this even on a staircase where you are stretching that heel past the step, or you can of course use a wall. But let's just say we're going 10 times up and down here. Just really push that heel back as far as you can. Keep that knee straight and enhance that stretch. So now we're going to take this back leg and instead switch and bring it up front. We're still focused on stretching this leg though. So go ahead and touch those toes to the wall. In order for us to stretch the soleus, we have to make sure that the gastrocnemius is not stretching, which means we have to keep the knee bent. So what I'm going to do is keep that heel down, then bend the knee and try to touch the wall. That right there is the soleus instead of the gastrocnemius. Now, if you can't feel this stretch yet, what we're going to do is come back, bring those toes a little bit away from the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and start with about 2 inches away from the wall. You're then going to bend that knee, keep the heel down, and try to touch the wall. Now the back leg can just kind of be anywhere. It's more of like a kickstand for you. But your goal is to be able to touch the wall without that heel coming up. I'm going to slide back again. So I want you to find a spot where it takes you to just about 1 millimeter away from the wall, touching the wall. So for me, roughly about here. So I had to come back this far from the wall. Now that of course is because I work this and stretch this and make sure that it's open on a daily basis. Yourself, you may be a little bit closer to the wall, but what you want to do is find that space and then go back and forth, not letting that heel come up off the ground. And you'll notice that you'll get closer and closer as that muscle releases. Once doing it a couple times, I then like to switch again, give it a good step back, come up and down on the toes again, and then bring it back in and stretch the soleus again. Find that space where that heel doesn't come up and it's difficult for you to touch the wall. Of course, repeat this on both sides, but this is that secret stretch. The stretch that gives you really good flexibility in your ankle without that gastrocnemius taking over. When the gastrocnemius takes over, it makes it so it's very hard to stretch the soleus. Last and certainly not least, we're going to use that foam roller to just work back and forth. You can go side to side on the calves. You also can roll up and down. It's really important just to make your way through both, as well as also flex that foot up and down. Really good pressure. And then if you need a little extra, just take that other leg and sit it right on top. You also, of course, can take your resistance band and wrap that around the foot twice. From here, you can get a little bit of action and go ahead and flex that foot back and forth. While laying on your back, you can pull that leg all the way back and really stretch out that muscle. And there you have it, some techniques to help you relieve that plantar fasciitis pain. Now, if this is bothering you when you're going on a hike or when you're in your hike or after you finished your walk, what I recommend is doing these exercises to warm up the muscle first. So that means you're gonna take the fingers, you're gonna work the hand, the therapy ball, whatever it is, work through the bottom of the foot, top of the foot. Then through the ankle, I want you to work on really pinning and releasing that Achilles tendon. Then make your way up into the calves. And of course, don't forget the front of the lower leg as well. Make sure that when you're doing your stretches, you show the difference between your long stretch, which is that gastrocnemius, and that short stretch, which is that soleus. These can be so beneficial to you if you do them before your actual exercise. And then if you're in a 5-hour hike, like my incredible friend hiking through Spain right now, all you have to do is take a break halfway through, spend some more time on your therapy, finish your incredible hike, and then afterwards hit it again. So all you have to do is make sure that you're adding these in on a daily basis. The amount of times that you exercise, which is your hike or whatever it is, you should double the amount of times you spend rehabbing and spending therapy in the joint. So that means before and after, simple as that. Thanks for tuning in. If you can think of anybody who could use this, and there are so many people out there, send this video on over to them to help them understand what it is they're dealing with and what are some techniques they can help relieve majority of their pain and pressure. If this video helped you, comment below. And if you could use this transformation, if you have a couple more questions very specific to you, direct message right now. I'm happy to help you out, and I'm happy to see you soon. Thanks for everything. Thanks for your time. Bye.